Hello, Year 5, and welcome to your SPAG lesson for Tuesday. Now, we've spent the last few weeks looking at parenthesis, and last week you looked at identifying it using dashes, using the double dash or the dramatic dash. The week before that, you looked at using brackets, and this week we're going to look at using commas. So hopefully, because it's the same sort of pattern as last week with dashes, you guys should feel pretty comfortable with this, but let's have a look. There's just a couple of things to remember about parenthesis as well. So let's remind ourselves, if I can find it, there we go. So first of all, our word of the day today is scowl. So when someone scowls, an angry or hostile expression appears on their face. So Jenny scowled at Philip after he ruined her picture. Synonyms are frown and glare. It is a verb, so we can add ed or ing to the end of it, scowling or scowled. And antonyms of the opposite are smile and grin. So on your document that's got your word of the day on there, have a go at writing a sentence using the word of the day. Okay, so let's remind ourselves of what parenthesis is. Oh, sorry, let's have a recap from last week, first of all. So what's the punctuation used to indicate parenthesis in this sentence? I had a wonderful time on Sunday. It was so nice to play in the snow. So just have a think to yourself quickly. Hopefully you noticed that it was a dash over here, and it was just one dash, the dramatic dash, because the parenthesis was at the end of the sentence. Now, if it had been brackets needed there, when we would have had a bracket before it and a bracket after it as well, but commas and dashes, we only need one if the parenthesis comes at the end of a sentence. So 2nd of February. Parenthesis is when extra information is added in the middle or at the end of a sentence, just like a relative clause. A sentence should still make sense if the parenthesis was taken out. So that's something that you really need to remember when you're trying your activity today, is make sure that if you removed the parenthesis from the sentence, does the sentence still make sense? So we've got some examples that we looked at before here. My granddad, who is 84, loves to play chess. If I take that parenthesis out, if I take the bits in red out, then my granddad loves to play chess still makes sense. I went to Paris, open brackets, which is in France, close brackets. If I take that parenthesis out again, I went to Paris makes sense by itself. So it can be demarcated using commas, dashes, or brackets. And you've had a look already at how we can use dashes and brackets. And today we're going to look at using commas. You can see there again the difference between dashes, commas, and brackets when the parenthesis is at the end of a sentence. So with commas, if it's at the end of a sentence, we would only need one comma. So can you use commas to show parenthesis in these two sentences? This is like your starter activity before the main one. So this is at the top of your activity, but I'm going to show you how to do this one as well. And then for the next ones, you guys are going to work independently of that. Now, we also need to be a bit careful because commas are used for a bit more than just fronted adverbials, than just parenthesis. As we saw in our activities the first week that we were doing parenthesis, commas can be used for lists, they can be used for, to show a gap between two clauses, or they can be used for fronted adverbials. So we need to be very careful that we're using them correctly to show parenthesis, not just using commas correctly. So our two sentences here are, when I got to the park, which was covered in snow, I started my run. And France, where the Louvre is somewhere that is very popular with tourists. So on that starter activity, have a go at putting those commas in, but this is where they should go. So which was covered in snow is our parenthesis here. So when I got to the park, I started my run. That still makes sense. Now the comma here does serve a double purpose because it is at the end of a fronted adverbial, but it also indicates the start of a parenthesis, but we wouldn't have two commas in a row. The next one, France, comma, where the Louvre is, comma, is somewhere that is very popular with tourists. Now we can see here that we've got is, which looks quite strange, but because I can take the parenthesis out, France is somewhere that is very popular with tourists, that's absolutely fine there, as long as you've got the comma between the two. So your job is to have a go at adding in the commas into these 7 sentences, which are on your resources in Teams. And can you tell me where the comma or commas should go? Remember that a parenthesis, you should be able to remove it from the sentence and the sentence will still make sense. Good luck, guys. Remember that you are only using commas today. Some of you in this activity previously have had a go at using commas, dashes, and brackets all in the same activity. They're not technically wrong, but the aim of this job is to just look at using commas to demarcate parenthesis.